Time Clock of the Heart, Culture Club, of course, and John Moss has now arrived. Welcome.
Hello. Time Clock of the Heart, we call it.
That's what you called it in the band, was it?
Yeah.
Was that a turning point in any way for the band, that particular single?
Well, the thing is, I think when you've had a #1 single or a very successful single, people always think, obviously, your next one isn't going to be as successful, or that it won't be as good, or that it'll be successful on the back of the original #1. But with time, I think it proved to people that we were a very versatile band. It wasn't on the album for a start, so people were surprised that we didn't release something off the album. And especially in America, I think people still didn't realise what Culture Club were, because they'd heard Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? And Time was so different, and it was such a different style of song. I mean, it was very like a black soul song that I think it impressed quite a few people. And also with George's voice, I think people realised that George's voice was very versatile, and the band were versatile, and we were actually musicians, and we could play.
What about the actual founding of Culture Club? There's the history of it. It's not that old as a band, is it?
Found George in a makeup box. It's not very old. I've known, well, I don't know, I met George about 4 years ago, I think now, in about 1980. And how the band actually started.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Mikey met George first. I think he'd seen a picture. George was originally in Bow Wow for a short period. He's called Lieutenant Lush. And Mike had seen a picture of George, and obviously thought this is very interesting. You know, he's looking for a band, he's looking for interesting people. And he got together with George. I'm sure George will tell you about that when he comes in, wherever he is. And I got a phone call from George one day. I heard that I used to be friendly with Kirk Brandon from the punk days. And I'd heard through the grapevine that there was a guy called George who was looking for a drummer, but I didn't think anything of it because I used to get so many offers anyway. And then George phoned me up one day. And it was really weird. He talked about 100 miles an hour down the phone and didn't say where it was or anything or where I should go or even what was happening. And then I didn't hear from him. But for some reason I was like very, very interested. Just, I don't know why, you know, it sort of came down the phone somehow on the wires, you know. And so I went out and I saw Kirk, and he didn't know what was going on. And I saw Kirk's manager, a guy called Terry Razor. Dodgy name, stupid name, right? Punk rock name, yeah. And it was all very untogether, and I thought, oh, this is really stupid. I've been through this so many times before with people asking you to join bands, you know, and then not turning up. So I just forgot about it. And, oh yeah, and then I got another phone call to meet down at this place in Borough. It was like this, it was very suited to George, actually. It was like a theatrical costumer's place, and it had sort of stuffed monkeys on the wall. And I thought, you know, you walk in and those sort of Dracula arms sticking out of all. And I met George. He was very pleasant, very down to earth. This really was, I never met anybody like him before. He's completely dressed up, and I had actually met him about 4 times before, but he'd been in different guises. And there was him, Mikey, and another guy called John, who was a guitarist who could play 3 chords, but he was a great bloke. And I mean, I sort of brought my drum kit in, and nobody gave me a hand, which is always a bad sign, right? Nobody ever gives the drummer a hand in with his drum kit. Anyway, they didn't really have any songs, but George started singing. He had a very good singing voice, and it was very good for me because I was looking for something. Because I've been in bands for about 7 years, I've become a bit of a jaded rock hack, as it were, you know.
You were a bit cynical, were you?
Well, I was cynical, yeah, obviously, because I'd seen bands come and go, and I'd seen the silly attitudes towards money and how people said they didn't want to be successful and they did want to be. And George seemed very, very creative, very different, and it was very exciting. I mean, there was nothing happening at all, really. There was just like this sort of potential talent sitting there. And it's, and also they asked me what I wanted to do. They wanted to use my experience, because being a drummer, you know, people always think, for some reason, people think drummers like going to boxing matches and driving fast cars, you know, which I do actually like doing, you know. That's got nothing to do with it, though. And it was really good, actually, somebody asking me for my experience and not treating me like a schlemiel, you know.
But the drummer is always, I think it's probably since Ringo Starr, the drummer's always pushed to the back of the band and treated as the dummy of the outfit.
Well, this is it, you see, which is something I, you know, hope I've changed. I know it sounds pretentious, but I think, you know, it's ridiculous, because, I mean, I don't know why drumming should be synonymous with Cro-Magnon man, you know. It's like beating bones against the drummer.
You had a very strong drum beat came into Church of the Poison Mind, which was almost like a Motown type.
Yeah, well, that's
of sound,
the idea
wasn't it?
originally, yeah, because in fact what happened is I heard it through the grapevine one night, and for some reason I heard something I'd never heard before. I listened to it on a really good system, I could hear everything. And I spoke to George, and he had this idea. He had done the same thing. He wanted to do a Motown type song.
Church of the Poison Mind, that Helen Terry's voice first became apparent, didn't it? The wailing voice in the background there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the first time. It's funny, it's almost like a duet, and then came Black Money.
Right.
Yeah, very strong.
Right. What was the reason for having Helen come into the band at that point?
Well, George met her in Charing Cross, and we were looking for backing singers. We had a couple on the first album where we didn't. They were okay. I mean, they were very good, but they weren't quite right for the band. And we were looking for someone to tour with the band as well. and I can't concentrate because George's back is not an arsehole.
Should we bring it in? Hey!
Hi there. Hi
Hello,
there, John.
hello. Have you
Don't
two
shake
met?
my hand.
Okay, I won't. I'll shake your head.
I'll shake your hand.
How are you?
All right.
Welcome to Music Box.
Thank you.
We're very well. We were just talking about Helen Terry, how you came across Helen Terry, how you got into the band.
Yeah, well, we'd started to do more live shows.
Why are you out of breath, George?
Oh, because I've been dancing and breakdancing, you know.
Oh,
doing
right.
a Mel
Doing
Brooks.
water skiing in the pool.
And what happened was that we started to do a lot of live shows. And actually how Helen started to sing with us was we were doing a show for Capital Radio, like a live kids show in a sort of theatre. And we needed backing vocals, you know, because we had them on the record.
Right.
And we hadn't actually thought about, you know, putting that into actually a live performance. John kept saying to me, find backing singers, and I kept saying, I will. And then I left it right to the last minute, and actually on the day of the radio show, I called Helen and said...
Which we've actually done now for the American tour. We're not using one that we were going to use, you know, we just found two people in time. It's always the best
Does
way.
this often happen, that you sort of leave things to the last
yes.
minute?
People always, you know, what happens with me is, because I like fat women, I like big singers, I like mamas, you know. sort of,
Raunchy.
wow, you know, that kind of, you know, real bag of wind type
Yes.
people. And also like people who can croon and stuff, you know, and just do amazing things, which I can't do. And Helen, you know, obviously, you know, Helen's voice was just like absolute, you know,
She's
ray
got
of
a black
sunshine.
voice, isn't she? It's actually it is a black voice.
She's got a black tooth as well. no, she has got a very Aretha Franklin sounding voice. It's very good. And she's got an amazing range. I mean, it's amazing listening to her, you know, she's sort of...
The great thing about Helen as well, she's much cheaper because we don't need to use 3 backing singers with Helen. You see, we don't need to use her because her voice is so powerful.
Yes, well, we've got 2 new ones now. A girl called Ruby Turner and one called Maureen.
Right. And they feature on the new single, do they?
No, they're not on anything that we've done. That's a new thing. Helen's on the album on about 2 tracks. And basically we've used about 20 different singers on the album. You know, we're trying, because the vocal sound was quite similar on all the other tracks on the last album. Although the album was a quite varied bag, you know, there was a sort of definite vocal sound. And so this one, we've deliberately gone out of our way. We've used kids.
Right.
We've used, you know, a black guy called Derek Green. We've used hundreds of people.
What we've been doing while you've been sort of elsewhere is just talking about a few of the early videos, and we're sort of up to the point now where we're talking about Karma Chameleon. And the immediate question there, which you must have been asked now n zillion times, is what is Karma Chameleon?
Well, karma is like nature's way of paying you back. Karma comes from a sort of Buddhist thing where, you know, if you sort of, they say that, you know, if you hurt people, you get paid back in your next life or even in this life. I mean, I wouldn't take it that far, but for me, karma is basically, you know, if you hurt somebody or do something, or you don't show your true colours, it always comes out in the wash, you know. And a chameleon is somebody who changes colour. Well, it's a lizard, but it's my description of people who never quite, you know, they're never quite one thing. They're always with the winning team, you know. If Chelsea are winning, they're Chelsea fans. If Arsenal are winning, they're Arsenal fans. That kind of person. There's a lot of them in the music industry.
Where did you think of this idea? Were you down the laundrette one night, or what? Where did you get these ideas?
Down the laundrette? I beg your pardon. Got a washing machine, mate.
I used to talk about karma with George, and he used to call me an old hippie until I explained to him what it meant.
Yeah, because he just used to keep saying, karma, karma. I used to go, what the hell is he talking about? And it wasn't until like, actually, you know, a lot of people, it's one of those words.
Never
See,
said
with
that
me,
in my life.
No, with me, I don't sort of, when I write songs, somebody might say something to me, like, I remember one day, on the new album, there's a song called Crime Time, and John, we were talking about songs, and John said, he says this song sounds like Death Cab for Cutie, which was an old Bonzo Dog Doodah band song. And I actually wrote a song about it. I used that as the first line. And John was saying, you can't use that. And that's probably how karma came about.
You seem to be moving along in your videos, don't you? You always seem to be, you're either sort of in front of the camera moving along or in a car. Is that your design?
Yeah, there's always some kind of form of travel in the videos. It's like with the albums, we use a lot of globes and a lot of aeroplanes, on the new album especially. We used like, on Colour Numbers we had a map of the world, which was the texture of the album cover.
Right.
We're into travel, because, you know, the whole idea of culture. In fact, originally we were going to be called Caravan Club.
Who thought of that?
We were going to be called Caravan Club or the Can't Wait Club.
Because that would mean something entirely different in Saudi Arabia, wouldn't it? It would mean you'd be a camel.
Would it?
Yeah, that's what a caravan is. The caravan of
Very
camels.
nice, very nice.
It would be extremely pleasant in Araban. So what made you settle on culture?
Well, just because, you know, the people in the band were very sort of, it was a mixed, you know, bag of races. You know, John was Jewish, I'm a Gentile, you know, Roy was very English. I mean, I'm actually Irish. And Mikey was Jamaican. So it just seemed fitting, you know. And everybody, you know, nobody, the Can't Wait Club seemed very, it seemed like, I don't know, if you're going to open a shop, it's always nice to have a name that's going to last. Can't Wait Club was a bit sort of poppy and a bit nowish, you know, at the time. And the Caravan Club was a bit too humorous, so we thought, well, we'll settle for something a little bit more serious.
John's had to leave us for the moment, by the way. If you're just wondering where John has gone, he's sort of disappeared off. So we can talk a bit about you. Are you surprised at the way you have developed within Culture Club? Did you see it lasting as long as it has lasted now, with all the success that goes with it?
I did. But obviously when you've got a lot of people around you being extremely cynical and telling you in as many words that you're not going to last, you know, it can be very difficult. You know, there are periods in your career where, you know, people want to sort of stick the knife in, you know. Like this is another period now. I mean, especially with all the big press conferences like the American, the European ones, where people are just really out to get you and niggle you. You know, they're out to sort of annoy you. And, you know, I'm terrible in a way because I sort of react exactly how I feel at the time. I mean, I don't have...
You do get niggled, don't you?
Oh, well, I do have feelings, and I act like a human being. I mean, I don't act like... I'm not like Joan Collins. I don't sort of have somebody saying, that's not star-like. I mean, I act exactly how I feel at the time, which is, I think, is the best way. Otherwise, you go around being precious the whole time. And, you know, I believe in giving as good as you get, you know. But I do sort of find it a bit aggravating. But I'm very pleased with how I've developed in Culture Club. You know, there's so many people around you telling you how awful you are. That, you know, sometimes you sort of get a bit misled and you think, oh, maybe I'm not as good, you know, as I think. But I think it's...
Where do you constantly come up with these different ideas for the way you look? It must be frustrating for the young fans in a way, because...
Why?
Well, because they have to buy all the gear and then 6 months later you change how you
that's
look.
of course if you think that they're only interested in me as the way I look. You know, I mean, if you come to a Culture Club concert, most of the kids, you know, can get it together to dress up in whatever, most of them have what I'm wearing on stage before they've even seen it. You know, they've got a pretty good idea of what I'm going to wear. Their interest isn't just in the way I look. In fact, 99% of the audience isn't dressed up. But when the press go along to a Culture Club gig, they look at all the kids and they say, well, it's just little girls dressed as Boy George, you know. But it isn't. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that don't bother dressing up. You know, I mean, you know, there are certain people who get into the spirit of things, you know, and dress up like me. But I wouldn't say that my audience is that concerned, really. I mean,
when did you first start dressing up?
Years ago. I mean, before Culture Club. Which is maybe why I'm so cynical about it all. You know, because I'm so used to myself and so used to the way I look that it's almost like boring to talk about it. I mean, I know that one has to, you know, when confronting society, if you're sort of confronting them with something which is a little bit eccentric, people want to have an explanation. But there isn't really any solid explanation, you know. I mean, I wasn't a sort of oppressed child. I just enjoy dressing up. I'm just a freak, you know.
When we, I wouldn't say you're a freak at all. When
What do you mean, I would?
you want to be a freak, I think you're very normal. We just saw Karma Chameleon. Right about the same time, you had a different single out in the States, which is I'll Tumble For You.
Yeah.
Why did you release something different over there? And so many, it came out before Karma Chameleon came out over here, and so many kids wanted I'll Tumble For You, but they couldn't get it.
Well, because, you know, in America, they sell albums. You know, in America, you have a lot more restrictions on what you can do. You know, there's so much that you can't be in control of. And it is quite aggravating, you know. They always want to do the record covers. They always want to control everything. You know, Epic Records always go around telling everybody, we made Culture Club. You know, it's their sort of claim to fame. So they really wanted to put out Tumble. We really didn't want to put out Tumble because it was like passe. But we decided to do a 12-inch. And we actually put it on the B-side of Karma Chameleon, the 12-inch of Karma Chameleon, to counteract all the imports. So I thought that was quite a good move, really. You know, we try very hard not to sort of flood the market with imports, but sometimes you can't really control that, you know.
This look that you have now come up with for this particular day, I mean, is this something just for today, or is it something that's going to last for a month or so?
This is my shopping look. It's just how, I mean, I just go, this is how my casual look.
Where'd you get the jewellery from?
It's from, oh, do you want me to do some plugging?
Yeah, go
It's
on.
from a place called Butler and Wilson in the Fulham Road. And it's quite expensive.
It's real diamond, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's all cheap old rubbish. But it's quite nice, you know, it's quite sort of, it's very, medals are very fashionable at the moment.
The hair. Now, we saw the newspaper pictures and so on from the summer holiday, where you'd actually gone peroxide blonde.
Yes.
Is that somewhere in there?
No, my actual real hair colour is bright red. And the reason I bleached my hair was because I needed to dye it red. And to dye it red, I had to bleach it. So really, the idea of having it blonde was just so I could have it red, because the album's called Waking Up with a House on Fire, and I wanted to do the picture with red hair. That is my real hair colour.
Right.
But having said that, I do wear lots of different wigs, like all different colours, and I had great fun last month doing all the sessions for these Woman's Own and Woman and all these magazines, because I gave them all completely different coloured hair. And it's great because no one knows exactly what colour my hair is. I mean, they do, but they're all going potty because they keep saying, well, we'll be out of date, you know. And it's quite nice for once to be able to have the power to actually sort of screw them all up a bit and, you know, sort of do what I want for once, you know.
When will you get round to actually using the real hair? Is that going to be when the album comes out?
Well, I'll be using it on tour, you know.
Right.
And the thing is, you know, I sometimes have my hair out. It just depends what I feel like. I mean, to me, this is like a hat, you know.
Does it amaze you that you've been copied so much?
No, but what does annoy me is when people sort of use all the things that I've created, you know, in fashion articles and articles about gender benders and androgyny, just the way that it's used in the mainstream, and I never get credited. You know, I mean, last year there were so many sort of fashion things in the Express and the Mail with all these girls with dreadlocks and ribbons. It was all my looks, and there's never any credit, you know. They never want to acknowledge that it might have come from the street, or it might have come from somebody like me, and that annoys me.
But everybody only associates you as well in the press with just wearing dresses. And of course, you're not even wearing a dress today, are you?
No, they're all in the cleaners. The thing is, you know, I mean, if you wear anything that goes past your bum, you know, that's it, you're wearing a dress. I've never worn a dress, ever. I mean, I've worn big shirts, which are like gigantic man shirts, you know. You know, it's so difficult because, it's funny, last year we were in America and there was this woman, she said, you know, why'd you dress like a woman? And she had like a sort of man's jacket and man's trousers on. And I said, well, why are you dressed like a man, you know? And she didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. I mean, everybody dresses like a man and a woman. There is no sexual definitions anymore, really. You know, most housewives look like men. You know, they walk around in sort of jeans and sweaters. I mean, that's supposedly men's clothing. I think the only way to define a transvestite is if you wear, like, false tits and, you know, so false boobies and false bums and stuff. But, I mean, I don't do any of that, you know.
Let me take you back to last Christmas, because the band don't deliberately put out Christmas records. You don't
No,
sort of
not
record
really.
Jingle Bells with a reggae beat or anything like that. But you did put out Victims round about Christmas last
Yeah.
year, and it seems as though slow songs tend to go with that time of the year.
Well, actually, it's funny because usually the songs that are big hits at Christmas are party songs. So that really isn't true, you know. Songs like Agadoo by Black Lace are sort of Christmas number ones, aren't they? And Don't You Want Me, they're sort of happy things. I mean, The Flying Pickets was a real freak number one, I thought. It's unusual to have a song that slow, and Save Renee and Renato, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
But generally it's something really upbeat.
I just always associate winter with slow songs, you know, Smoochy Evenings.
Well,
and
I mean,
stuff like
Victims was just, I think, one of those songs that we all thought was really beautiful, and the vocal was great on it. And I just wanted to put it out as a single, you know. And it just seemed right at that time, you know.
that. Did you have fun making the video?
Well, the video for that was done by Godling Cream, who were the most insipid pair of weirdos that you've ever met in your life.
I thought they were the world's best video directors.
I don't think they are. They're sort of like, they sort of go around telling everybody now that we didn't know what the plot was, which is true. Because what happened, I mean, like, the only videos that I've really had control over are the latest one, and Miss Me Blind and Miracle. I wrote the scripts for those. And with all the others, because I'm so involved in everything, you know, the covers and all the sort of artwork and stuff, the rest of the guys kept saying to me, don't do that, you know, let somebody else do the videos. And consequently, we never liked any of them, because nobody was injecting any of their personality into it, you know. I mean, Karma Chameleon was cute, but Victims was a bit sort of, you know, a bit melodramatic, you know.
Not a favourite?
I like it, you know. I think I look like a sort of Brer Rabbit in it.
Paid for your summer holiday?
No, don't be cynical. It's like I should have big white ears coming out of my hat, you know. I quite like it.
All of the art and the video and so on within Culture Club. Was it your idea to now go for the war theme of the new single?
Well, it's not really, you know, you don't, when you write an album, you don't sort of say, well, this is going to be the single and it's going to be this theme and that theme. When I write songs, I always write about things which I'm thinking about at the time, you know. I mean, I could possibly write a song about the milkman, you know, if I really set my mind to it. But, you know, the war song is definitely the most likely track on the album for a single. It's the most single-like track.
But you were thinking of war?
Well, obviously, that's what the song's about.
Yeah.
But the song isn't necessarily about war. It's really about people. You see, what I think, you know, I mean, with the Frankie Goes to Hollywood thing, they sort of had Ronald Reagan and the Russian leader kicking each other, and it was all very hilarious. But on a sort of smaller scale, I think there are other problems which go to creating world problems. Like I think, the way kids sort of are so cruel to each other at school, and, the way there's racialism and things like that. All those little problems which maybe people who think about world war don't take into consideration. And I think those small things, are more important. And that's what I'm singing about in the song, the way that people can't live with each other. It's got nothing to, really, it's not to do with war as such. It's not anti-war or pro-war. It's really sort of anti-people. I'm saying that people are extremely confident,
You think people are more aggressive these days? You notice that there's more aggressiveness around?
Well, I think that,
The football violence, things
well,
like
that's
that?
always been there. That's been there for years, since the 70s. I just think that it's sort of, like when there was a thing in the paper about me which said I was really fat, and it was like really hideous. It was like just the most cruel piece of journalism I've ever seen, actually. It's one of the nastiest things that's ever been written about me. And I wasn't that annoyed, because I have wonderful relationships. I don't have to worry about being fat. I don't have to worry about being attractive for anyone. I've got a good relationship. Selfish sod, aren't I? And what I was annoyed about more was that, little kids will go to school and they'll see that and it'll be like, you're fat, you've got glasses, you're ugly. That really annoys me. That sort of puts the whole thing back 20 steps. And that's sort of what I represent in a way. I don't want to sort of create a nation of page-free girls. I want to sort of have people of all shapes and sizes following me around. I don't want to sort of have pretty girls. You know what I mean? I really do look for the sort of people's disabilities, if you like. I write about those things.
Have you lost faith with human beings yet?
Well, no, because human beings are a sort of constant sort of, you constantly get inspiration from human beings. It's really easy to write songs about people. As I was saying earlier in the press conference, everybody writes songs about love. And nobody says, well, Hugh Lowe Iglesias wrote songs about love before you did. I think it's a bit naive to think that Just Frankie Goes to Hollywood are the only group in the world that are concerned with, World War. They're not the only people that are going to be affected by it. And I do think that the video and their whole approach was a bit childish.
They've been very successful, Frankie.
Yeah,
Goes to
brilliant.
Hollywood.
It's great, but you can't separate anything from Frankie Goes to Hollywood. You can't separate, with Culture Club, you can separate Steve Levine and Culture Club. With them, you can't separate that. It was the same with ABC. It's a bit of a sort of continuous thing with Trevor Horn, the way that he gets a band, completely changes their sound, and then maybe next year I think Frankie Goes to Hollywood will try to prove that they're good musicians because they're going to start getting flack, which is what happens to ABC, and they'll fall flat on their noses. I hope they don't do that. I hope that they stick with the winning formula, which is always advisable. But,
Have you danced to a Frankie Goes to Hollywood record yet?
No, I actually don't like Two Tribes. I love Relax. But then I hated the video for that because it was so obscene and so childish. The thing is, as I said at the press conference, I knew what homosexual was when I was 10, I'm not shocked by that anymore. It doesn't sort of thrill me. Culture Club is a sort of more organised type of rebellion. It's not for little kids who've discovered their identity through a bottle of bleach, I don't want to play to kids who hate their parents. I'm not Mark Almond. It's a different kind of thing, It's a lot more sensitive and a lot more real. It's not sort of... Culture Club isn't one of those sort of bands, It isn't like Shock the World, Yabu Hiss, It's a lot more sensitive and a lot more intelligent, I think.
You never appear to stop working as a band, and this is going to be a very busy few months for you now because you've got to go to the States and do a tour, which would finish a lot of bands off, but then you're coming back to Britain to do some concerts at the end of the year.
Yeah, we got a tour. Well, we got to play England because, number one, we owe it to our audience in England. We've been away quite a lot. And I don't want them to think that we're doing a sort of Duran Duran and we're going to disappear, to America. I'd love to do a really big tour of England. The one we're doing at Christmas is quite small.
What about Europe?
Well, Europe is another kettle of fish, That'll be next year. England has to take priority over Europe, I'm sorry to say that. But England is our home,
Right.
And there's nowhere else I'd live. I'd never live in another country.
You're going to have to live somewhere else soon, aren't
Why?
you? Because the British tax laws are going to catch you.
I think if you keep working, you have, the thing is, I just need enough money to eat, and I'm okay, I am a closet Liberace. I'd love to have a big house, but it's not the be-all and end-all of everything,
But you're just cut out for the Bel Air mansion.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you've got the right image and everything for it. I would have thought you'd love it.
You're probably more like that than me. I don't think I don't think I'm a typical rock star. I'm anything but a typical rock star.
Where would you be living in 5 years' time then?
In a house, preferably.
In Uxbridge?
I'd like to live in the countryside in England. If not, I'll move to Jamaica or Italy. No, not Italy, get kidnapped there. But, you know, somewhere that's sort of like England.
Well, we'll publish the address as soon as we know, of course.
Okay, good idea.
George, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Culture Club are so much in demand now with the world's press that they have to hold press conferences, and that's what's been going on here today. There have been members of the press from 21 foreign countries invited to this hotel in London.
What inspired you to write the war song? People say because of Frankie?
Oh, definitely, it was because of Frankie. Yeah. It was definitely, that was the only reason. And I'm now into gay bondage and leather and whips as well. You know.
Misquote.
Well, it's a silly question, isn't it, really? I mean, do you think that only sort of certain people think about war? Do you think only certain pop groups think about it? Or do you think it's like, do you think Frankie Goes to Hollywood are the only people who've ever thought about war? Or do you think the rest of the world is like completely stupid? I mean, it's, obviously, you can draw comparisons, But, I've had sex with men as well, so maybe Frankie Goes to Hollywood copied me, And it's a bit of a boring question, really. It's a very important subject, and it's also, very topical at the moment,
Hey, Frankie Goes to Hollywood deal with war the way that the Sun newspaper would.
Deals
I
with
think,
sex, yeah.
We deal with it the way the Beano would. I don't know if you know what the Beano is. It's like a kids' magazine. That's the difference.
I just think that, if you listen to the lyrical content of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, it's not really about much, is it? It's not really that intelligent. The war song has got very good lyrics, and I think they're probably the best lyrics I've ever written, and they're very intelligent. And I think it's a different, more sensitive, more emotional song. I don't think you can compare it, really. But then you will, won't you? Because, you're from Popcorn, so... Wherever you're from. You're from a pop magazine, so that's to be expected, really, isn't it? Okay.
I think both records have a different thing to offer, our song is it's like a optimistic cry, whereas theirs is like it's more of a sort of, you've got to listen to this is really important. Ours is like an optimistic approach to it. The music is happier. It's, I personally really like the Frankie thing, but it's like it's coming from a different angle. But it wasn't written because of it at all. It's just, we always just write songs, and if they come out, if it happens to be about war, we're not going to say, we can't do that because Frankie just does.
Yeah, millions of people write songs about love, you could say that everyone's copying Julio Iglesias, everybody writes songs about love, and nobody draws comparisons there, obviously it's a different subject, but I think everybody has the right to think about it, and it affects everybody in the end. And so it is important, And coming from Germany, which has one of the biggest peace movements in the world, you shouldn't really ask that question. You should be pleased that I think you should be pleased that people even bother to do it,
I asked for the leader because
Okay, fine. But I just think that, there's so many, the whole of the new album is a lot more sensitive, as regards to the lyrics. Because I think there's so many songs around at the moment which are so bland, like Wham and Bananarama. And I'm just trying to sort of, I think the whole of the album has got much more intelligent lyrics than any other thing we've done, But maybe it's because, my attitude's getting stronger, Whatever, but it's certainly got nothing to do with anybody else.